I'm David Frise and I'm Chief Executive of the FIS, which is the trade body for the fit-out industry.
Thank you very much. And just wait for this gentleman.
I didn't know whether action on it.
We're kind of in the middle.
Still in makeup.
That's okay. We'll crop you out. And why is BIM important to FIS?
Well, I think it's very important to our members because it gives the opportunity to get some real clarity around design and construction process. So we all understand what we mean by common terms, but we all know that they can have totally different meanings depending on which side of the fence you're sitting. So I think from a contractor's perspective, it gives them the ability to say, this is what you asked for, when you asked for it, and in the format you wanted it in, and that's becomes objective, not subjective. Removes people from being able to say, I know I asked for that, but I actually meant this. Could you do that for me? Because it's quite clear what was requested and what was delivered. From a manufacturer's perspective, the same applies. They can provide the same data in the same format across a range of different projects, which they can't at the moment. You're always providing data or information in a slightly different format, but it's the same thing, and that's very, very wasteful. And from a client's perspective, you can be sure that you're going to get the thing you asked for, but you actually have to think about it probably a bit earlier than you do now.
And what do you see as the main challenges for your membership?
The main challenges are that it's getting people engaged in the process. So the most common thing we probably hear is my clients are not asking me for it. And that's probably because they've got this subliminal sign above their office that says, we don't do BIM. So if you've got that sign above your door, then why would anybody send you anything? And we have very fine radar in construction. We know where the inquiries are coming and what format they're coming from. And we rarely spot the stuff that's kind of behind us. We don't look back and say, well, where's that stuff gone? Suddenly you notice that your inquiries have reduced, and that's because you've got this sign up saying, I don't do that. So why would I send it to you?
And if you could give one piece of advice to someone starting off their BIM journey, what would that be?
There aren't as many experts as you think there are. So you are not the only person in the room who isn't an expert. And actually, if you've got an open mind and a willingness to listen and to learn, and you learn the language, it's like anything that you have experts in. They use the power of language to shut you out. So learn a few terms, a few phrases, and suddenly you're an expert too, and you probably know as much as anyone else in the room. So have no fear and go for it, because actually it's about being open to change. And whether we call it BIM or moving from an analog world to a digital world, it's going to happen. So you may as well get on board now and find out what it is that you don't know, because there's quite a bit of that for sure.
Curveball question. If you could, starting out from the beginning, if BIM wasn't called BIM and you had the opportunity to call it something, what would you call it?
Digital construction, I think. So BIM, we're immediately talking code, aren't we? BIM. As soon as you do that, people say, I haven't got time to do that, or it becomes an extracurricular activity, which I'll do later on. And funnily enough, you never get around to it because you're busy doing business as usual.
And is there something else in the construction industry that you feel particularly passionate about that you'd like to?
I think there's one really, really critical thing that you need to do to make BIM work, and that's that move from the analog to digital, and that is that actually you've got to design the thing before you start to build it. You will never otherwise you're reversing BIM into the project. So design the project first before you start to build, so you're not immediately into build and design. And build and design causes so many of the issues and problems and drives behaviours. So if you design it first, then start to assemble it on site, you'll end up with a better outcome, quicker delivery, and that's one of the key elements, I think, that's there. If we were to compare it to the Civil Aviation Authority, and this was an aircraft, you can't imagine them saying to Boeing, I know you haven't fully designed this aircraft, but give it a go down the runway, because you never know. It might take off and it might even stay in the air, but so many of our buildings are started before we know what we're building. You can never fit BIM into that.
That was a great analogy, thank you. Could you give us your takeaway from today's discussions?
I would echo what I'd heard before, that actually it's great to see so many people from diverse companies coming around, from the tech companies like Google, software providers, to the main contractors, the specialists, the manufacturers, all coming around trying to grapple with the issues as we see them. And we have a very specific philosophy in the FIS. It's that it's better to solve our own problems than wait for someone to do it for us and then say, well, I don't like the solution. And this is a prime example of the industry coming together to make something work for us, which is why we set up the BIM4FitOut group in the first place. What's going to be the impact of BIM on FitOut? Well, let's try and shape it rather than have it done to us.